When I came there, we had 5,500 old buses. By the time we finished the Olympics, we had 8,000 new ones. Makes a 50% increase in public transport usage.
Well, there's only two reasons for staging the Olympics. One is like Beijing in 2008 and Tokyo in 1964. Here's a global power emerging onto the world stage. Unless it's something like that, the only real justification for that level of spending is a real investment legacy. And I chose the site, the most polluted and neglected site in southern England. And we now have property developers building homes in the area, office development in the area. There's at least 10, perhaps 20 years of further development to follow as that site is adapted for other uses.
The joy of the Olympics was a deadline. You couldn't keep putting it off and off. Now, I don't know what your politicians are like, but there's a risk-averse nature in politics in Britain. And yet, do you know any successful business where the people leading that business didn't take risks? You have to ask yourself, why on earth did you bother to come into bloody politics when you don't do it?
If you look at the media legacy of our games in 2012, it was so successful. The images broadcast around the world. It helps boost tourism, and tourism is now a major factor. I mean, people don't come to a city like London or Tokyo to look at the bankers. They come for the cultural offer, the food, the parks, and you know, it just looks to me like this is an attractive place to come and visit. Lock down the scheme as early as possible and then make no further changes. If you look at those Olympics that have been financial disasters, politicians and civil servants kept coming along, meddling, making changes. You can't manage a project like this by committee. Well, part of the problem is, if you look at the problem with Sydney, they built it outside the capital, outside Sydney, and now the site is virtually derelict. There's no legacy. In Athens, they scattered it all over the city, so people had a nightmare commuting between, and a lot of those facilities aren't used. By concentrating it as much as possible in one area with good transport, you can sustain that legacy. The success story of capitalism is linked to investment. The level of investment outweighs every other factor together. And one of the reasons that America and Europe have been sort of slipping back in the world league, economic league, is our levels of investment have dropped. If you look, Japan came from the devastation of the Second World War to the second largest economy by the end of the 1960s. But in that period, it was investing 38% of its GDP, laid the foundation for a huge success. I don't think you can take any property advice from London and just plonk it onto Tokyo. These are very different worlds. But yeah, I think the important thing now, some people are telling me that developments in Japan are fairly short term, 25, 30, 40 years. Whereas I think now, given the problems of climate change and sustainability, you should build things to last more than a century. Given the climate change problems we face, we should eliminate waste. And building a building for a short-term life now is most likely a very bad idea.
The weakness now of a lot of the Anglo-Saxon world is it's too short-term, there is no great plan. Too many of the people that come into politics, it's like a religion, it's a faith. They form an idea about how the world should be and spend the rest of their careers trying to bend reality to fit it. If I went to my doctors and said, we've got conflicting results from these tests, they didn't say, well, I like that one, shred the other. They sent you back to do it again and again until you found out the truth.